Chapter 1. Darkness surrounds Janet as she fumbles with a small box in her hand. A quick strike causes a tiny flicker of light to dance atop a stick. The small light fades and then returns to black. A second strike brings the light back. The lone flame surrounded by the dark is brought down to light a candle. 13. As Janet picks up the cake, the light from the candle illuminates her face. She's an exhausted single mom who is too old to raise her kids alone. A bad rash covers part of her cheek. As she walks to the dining room, she begins singing Happy Birthday. The dining room is dimly lit. The walls do not have a nook or cranny bare of floral decor, and have a bit too many embroidered scriptures. The room is filled with the sound of adolescent girls singing. Janet sets the cake down on the table in front of Bailey. Bailey's straight blonde hair is pulled back into a ponytail with bangs just out of her eyes. She does not talk as much as most of her friends, but is unafraid to say what she thinks. Beside her, on either side, sit her two best friends. A year older, Emily is the most mature of the three, but the shyest. On the other side of Bailey sits Sydney, a Sour Patch Kid, the perfect amount of sour and sweet. Everyone finishes singing Happy Birthday, and Bailey blows out the candles. She smiles at everyone, ready for all the eyes to get off of her. Bailey's big brother, Dylan, sits opposite the table. At 25, he's a bit older than Bailey. Years ago, after their father walked out, Dylan stayed to help care for his mother, who fought sickness after sickness. He has lost his enthusiasm for life after taking on so much responsibility at a young age. Dylan has had a girlfriend since high school. She was a sophomore when he was a senior. Now 23, she's leaning against Dylan's arm. She's a pretty brunette with eyes that always give away her thoughts. Janet starts cutting the cake and handing slices to everyone. As the party goes on, everyone ends up in the living room. Bailey and her friends are sitting on the floor, giggling, doing each other's makeup. Bailey grabs her phone and takes some selfies. RuPaul uses less makeup than what she has glopped on her face. I look like a Spice Girl. You guys look like bland girls. Confused, Sydney replies. What's a Spice Girl? She reaches out and grabs Bailey's phone. Let me see this. As Sydney looks at the picture, Emily grabs the phone. I'm going to send this to Ethan. She scrolls through Bailey's contacts, trying to find the number. Bailey lunges at Emily, fighting for her phone. What? No way, he is so gross. As the girls go back and forth, Dylan sits on the couch with Rebecca, lying with her head on his lap. Janet is sitting in a recliner watching the girls. I got a call back from the furniture store, Dylan tells Janet. I have an interview next week. That's so exciting. I knew they would call you. You just had to be patient, Janet replies. Bailey interrupts their conversation. Mom, come here, let me do your makeup. Excited to be involved, Janet jumps out of her chair and joins the girls on the floor. Sydney leaves Bailey to do her mom's makeup and sits down where Rebecca's legs are, forcing her to pull them up before Sydney squashes them. Can I do your makeup? I can make you pretty for your boyfriend. Rebecca sits up, slightly offended. You don't think I am pretty? Of course I do, but what? You guys have been together so long that you don't try as much. Sydney? Rebecca's face blushes with embarrassment and anger. When are you guys getting married anyway? You have been dating my whole life. Dylan chimes in, annoyed with Bailey's bratty friend. Why don't you leave us alone? Are you guys waiting till you're married? Rebecca is becoming increasingly annoyed. What did you just say? You know, if you are, then you need to get married fast. You don't want to waste all your pretty years not doing it. Rebecca hops off the couch and grabs Sydney. Okay, we are not talking about this. Let's go. You can put makeup on me. The two sit on the ground. Rebecca closes her eyes and raises her chin, giving Sydney a perfect canvas. Dylan looks around, realizing that he has been left alone. I'm going to let you girls have fun. I'm supposed to hang out with Dad tonight. He heads out of the house. As he passes Bailey, he rubs her hair, messing it up. Happy birthday, kid. Bailey looks up at him with a fading smile. "You are going to see Keith tonight?" Dylan sits in the passenger seat as the city lights dance over his face. He and his dad sit in silence as Keith drives through the night. Dylan usually does not make it into the city much. He prefers the calm and space on the outskirts of it rather than the chaotic crowds and traffic. Even though the city is not his favorite place, there is something about how even the buildings come to life at night. The lights from the buildings make a mural of colors that break up the darkness and grime that the city cannot hide during the light of day. Keith looks like an everyday businessman, clean-cut and wearing a button-up shirt. He drives a newer BMW model. However, he has lost the ability to talk to his son. Sitting there, not knowing how to start a conversation, his palms become sweaty. He turns on the radio, flipping through the channels, trying to find something he hopes Dylan might like. He eventually gives up and turns the radio off. "How has your mom been?" It is always awkward at the beginning every time that they get together, even though Dylan knows he is not the one who needs to worry about how the conversation goes or how the evening turns out. "She has been feeling good. I think she is finally getting better." "Good, good. You don't know how happy that makes me to hear that. I know I have said this before, but someday you will understand why I left." He spends all day making negotiations, smooth talking, convincing people to buy anything he has. But he cannot figure out how to talk to his son, whom he helped raise for 20 years. Dylan looks down at his lap for a moment. "Open the glove box," Keith says, trying to change the subject. Dylan opens the glove box and pulls out a small box of a plastic model car. "When you were younger, you always flipped through an old calendar of mine. You would flip to August 1969 GTO. Your eyes would light up when you found it. On your 8th birthday, I got you that model. I promised you we would put it together someday. Time got away, then your mom and I separated. I would come home to my empty apartment each night and all I could think about was you and Bailey. I started working on it. Maybe we can still finish it together." Dylan opens the box and looks over the half-finished model. The instructions are still folded up next to the car. "I remember that calendar. I still have it. I always wanted to get you a real one. Maybe someday." "Yeah, maybe." Dylan unfolds the instructions and looks over them. He notices that his dad has written something on them. "Devoir" inside. What does that mean? Keith looks over at the instructions for a second. "Oh, who knows? It was probably some note for something I shouldn't forget. That didn't work." He anxiously pulls out his wallet from his back pocket. He tries to go through it while keeping his hands on the wheel and his eyes on the road. He grabs a folded piece of paper and hands it to Dylan. He unfolds the paper to reveal a check. Dylan does not even read it and hands it back. "Your mom won't take money from me. Can you put this in your bank account?" "We don't need it. Please just take it. Hopefully, it will help pay off some of her medical bills. Maybe fill up the fridge too." Dylan looks down at the check. $5,000. "You know, I'm trying to be cool with you, but you can't just ask to hang out every once in a while and try to buy my love back. It's not like that. Yes, it is. You always make empty promises that I will understand. But it never happens. Dylan, I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to take care of you, Bailey, and your mom the best way I know how."
Anger starts to build in Dylan as his father begins to play the victim card. "You don't have to. All you need to do is be there. Bailey had a dance recital last weekend and she was crying before it because you used to always help her with her makeup. It's not that easy. If she would talk to me. No, you were the one that left." Each time Dylan hears it is everyone else's fault, it drives the wedge deeper and deeper. You act like it's our fault that Bailey and Mom won't talk to you. We weren't the ones that left. You left. They sit in silence for a moment. Bang! A car smacks into the driver's side of Keith's car. The car screeches off the road. Everything suddenly goes foggy. Dylan can hear an engine revving as it speeds away. Not knowing where their car went, He becomes scared that they went into oncoming traffic. He looks around, dreading another hit. Nothing happens, but when he looks around, his eyes stop on his dad. Dad? No. Dylan's fear turns to shock, and then grief. Chapter 2. Alone, with only a casket in front of them. It has been 5 years since the family has all been together. Sometimes, it felt like the other day, and other times, it felt like another lifetime that they would all gather in the living room each Tuesday evening to watch the new episode of House. Janet and Keith met a few years after high school. He had come to town for college. He wanted to study civil engineering. She was working as a cashier at the local dollar slasher. He was usually shy, mostly around pretty girls, but he built up the courage to talk to her when he stood in line with his bag of chips and a six-pack of Love beer. That was 30 years ago. All of the years of memories went through Janet's head as she took a seat and dried her eyes with a tissue. Bailey barely remembers the days when they would watch television together. All she has known is a man who broke their family apart. She did not consider Keith as a father. She did have some good memories of him, but those are far from her mind today. Someday, in the future, she might look back and cherish those moments, but not today. She looks around at all the people she only sees once or twice a year and wonders why they are so sad. They did not talk to him regularly. They did not come to visit. They would only see each other around Christmas and sometimes Thanksgiving at Grandma's house. Anyways, that's that. She goes to find something more interesting to do while she waits to leave, like reading the tombstones to see the youngest person who died. A man in his mid-50s sits beside Dylan where Bailey was. He looks charming, but has the confidence that demands respect. "Hello, Dylan. Your father. He did a lot of great things for me. He worked for me off and on for a long time." He pulls a business card from his wallet and hands it to Dylan. Dylan remembers seeing the man before. One time, when he was a kid, Dylan and his dad were shopping at Walmart and ran into this man. Dylan's dad stopped and talked with people whenever they went anywhere. But for some reason, this man stuck out in his memory. He remembered asking his dad who he was after he had walked away. "Lee, right? He talked about you some. He always talked highly of you. I would be honored for his own to continue. Why don't you come work for me? You would make more than most kids your age." Lee puts his hand on Dylan's shoulder, then stands up and walks away. "Do you know him?" Rebecca asks as she watches him suspiciously as he gets into a Lexus LX. "No, not really," Dylan answers. 1998 Honda Civic. It might be a few years older than a 25-year-old would like, and it is not as flashy as some of the other older cars, but it never has problems. You turn the key and it comes to life. The inside of the car is littered with losing lottery tickets. Dylan is driving and Rebecca is sitting in the passenger seat. Dylan is stewing in his thoughts. She wants to help, but she knows her efforts will be disregarded. She cannot help but try anyway. She reaches out and touches his hand, but he pulls away. That was a nice service. She tries, but Dylan says nothing. "Mrs. Henderson didn't get a chance to talk to you, but she wanted me to tell you that she was really sorry and that she was there if you needed anything." He remains quiet. "Dylan, please talk to me." Dylan continues to keep his eyes on the road. "He wasn't my dad, but he meant a lot to me. We aren't going through the same thing, but this is hard for me too. We need to be there for each other." He makes a sudden turn into a gas station. "Dylan?" He runs into the gas station. Rebecca watches him disappointed. A few minutes later, he returned with a few scratchers. He uses a coin he finds in the cup holder to scratch the tickets on his steering wheel. He does not win. Damn it. Janet's dining room, which was full of joy just a few days ago, is entirely silent. The family sits in the quiet with a large casserole covered in aluminum foil on the table. Janet breaks the silence. "I will pray." Everyone bows their head except Dylan, who looks around at the three, annoyed, then bows his head. "Lord, thank you for this meal and for allowing us to have such good friends to care for us during this time. Let this food nourish our bodies. In Jesus' name. Amen. They continue to sit there for a few more moments. You never really know when the last time that you will hold your child or go to bed for the last time. At some point, you will do everything for the last time, and you will have no idea. But you will know the first time you do each thing after losing something. This will be the first time eating together after their father's funeral. Janet takes control of the situation and reaches her hand out to Rebecca. "Hand me your plate, Rebecca." She does as she is told. Janet takes the aluminum foil off to reveal a casserole that some old church lady tried to clean out her leftovers for the sake of being helpful. Janet scoops out a plate full of the yellow and green mush, then hands it back to Rebecca. "Bailey?" Janet instructs with her hand outstretched. Bailey hands her plate to Janet. She scoops out a big glob, but it gets stuck in the spoon. She has to smack the spoon on the plate a few times before it breaks loose. She hands the plate back. "Dylan." "I'm not hungry." "Dylan." He hands her his plate reluctantly. After filling his plate, she makes her own and starts eating. Her hand starts to twitch slightly. Rebecca nudges Dylan under the table and points to his food with her eyes. They take a bite. Bailey watches them eat the science experiment to get the all clear that it is safe to eat. Dylan gives the first review. "Mrs. Baker has outdone herself this time. Who knew you could make celery casserole?" Bailey chews on her bite for a few moments, then pulls some celery string out of her mouth. "This is the worst." Janet glares at Bailey without her noticing and takes another bite. "You know what sounds good?" Dylan asks Bailey. "Sancocho." "Oh my gosh, yes," Bailey answers. "Did you ever learn how to make that?" "No, I didn't." Janet slams her fork on the table. "How about we don't talk about him for the rest of the night? Does that sound good?" The smiles on Dylan's and Bailey's faces fade. "I'm sorry." Janet repents. "How about this? I have an idea. Maybe we can say a memory we have of him. I can go first." Bailey is complexed. "When you were 4, you loved chocolate chip cookies," Janet says to Bailey. "Who doesn't, right? One evening you asked me to make some for you while I was making supper. I told you that you can't have dessert before eating. I finished making supper, and when I called everyone to the table, little Bailey had chocolate all over her face. Your dad saw your face, and he looked so scared but didn't say anything." Janet's cheek twitches as she takes another bite. "So what I found out later was that you went to Dad and asked him. He gave you a whole bag of chocolate chips and told you to hide them and not to tell me. He told you that if I found out, both of you would be in trouble." Dylan and Rebecca laugh at the story. Bailey is still confused. "He could be annoying sometimes, but he would do anything for you kids." Dylan laughs as a memory comes to him. "When I was 10 or 11, Bailey cuts him off. "What is going on?" "What do you mean?" Janet asks. "You complain about him all the time. Tell us that he caused the family so much trouble, and now, just because he died, he's a great guy." "Bailey, don't talk like that." "What? This is bullshit. He sucked. I hate that he died, but I'm not going to pretend that he was winning Best Dad awards." Janet's twitch in her cheek gets worse. "We have to remember the good times. It makes it easier to let him go." Bailey throws her chair back, storming out of the room. "I don't have to do anything." Dylan tries to comfort his mother. "It's okay, Mom. Let her go." He puts his hand on her shoulder. Janet's head starts to twitch. She suddenly falls out of her chair and goes into a seizure on the floor. Dylan jumps out of his chair and tries to hold her. Rebecca rushes to Janet's side, not knowing what to do. Bailey turns around and runs back to her mother.
I hope you enjoyed the first 2 chapters of Devoir. If you have a Kindle Unlimited account, you can read the rest of the story for free. If not, you can find it on Amazon. Just look up Devoir by David Littlefield. In the rest of the book, you will read a gripping and emotional story about family and resilience that confronts hidden injustice and challenges us to take action.